Come together. It begins on page 900, called the Parsha is named Parshas Matot, which is on the chapter 30, verse 2 in Bamidbar. And then it moves on after 112 verses. It gets into the next Parsha called Massei, which is on page 918, chapter 33, verse 1. And Parshas Massei is going to be on 132 verses. And with reading these two Parshas together, we are going to complete the fourth of the 5 books of Moses. The book of Bamidbar, known as the book of Numbers in English. In essence, these 4 books are considered the complete Torah. The next book that we're going to read next week, Dvarim, is actually titled Mishneh Torah. Mishneh comes from the word repeating the Torah, being that the next week's Torah portion, the final book of the 5 books of Moshe, Moshe is reviewing what took place for the last 40 years. He's editing some of the information, many details of stories which are being discussed in the entire Torah is actually being completed and completed in a way of adding information in this book of Dvarim. For example, this famous story of the spies, if you read that in the book of Dvarim, you're going to see more things which happened around the story, how they approached Moshe and so on. Some of the details which is not mentioned in the story and in the book of Shlach, where it's originally discussed in this book of Bamidbar. So the book is called Mishneh Torah. This week ends Chumash Bamidbar, when we complete with the famous declaration of Chazak, Chazak, V'ni Chazek, which is, like I said, in essence, we can have a shtickle Simchas Torah celebration, since we're finishing the reading of before the repetition comes. But since Arnold is not in the mood for Simchas Torah yet, as the expressions on his face had just made, so we're going to postpone Simchas Torah until we're going to finish the book of Dvarim. This week's Parsha talks about a number of things, but in this short time that we have here, we're only going to try to concentrate on one of them. The Torah begins on page 900 with the importance of keeping your mouth sacred, and this is by ensuring that vows and promises are being validated. Then goes on to a story where they were fighting with the Midianites. They were actually asked to take revenge from the Midianites, the way they behaved towards the Jews in trying to desecrate the camp. And there is a whole discussion of that story, which the fact that they came back with spoils, with booty from the war, and here is the first time they are introduced with the laws of koshering some of the utensils which they captured from the Midianites, wanting now to use it for personal use. The Torah introduces a process, and the process is known today in Hebrew or in the halachic definition, Hagalat Kelim, which means in Yiddish they call it koshering utensils. Pouring it, putting it in hot boiling water, some of them being used by kashered by going through actual fire, known as today's day the blowtorch type of koshering, and many other formats of koshering discussed in the Talmud and our halachic qualifiers and authorities, all the way into the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law. This is what a big part of this Parsha of Matos is being contributed for. The final story in the Parshas Matos is about two tribes wanting to stay on the eastern side of the river, Gad and Reuven. They bring along with them half of the tribe of Menashe. And they had a lot of cattle, and therefore they wanted to stay on the eastern side of the river, not entering Eretz Yisrael. They represented their request, which was responded with a great rebuke by Moshe. How comes after 40 years hearing about the importance of moving to the land, now you suddenly decide to stay here? They offered to join the efforts of war in conquering Eretz Yisrael. Only then they're going to make their way back to the eastern side and stay. Moshe eventually agrees with them, but again, this is one of the stories that the final conclusion and the details of it we're only going to find not even in next book's Parsha. In next book, this is actually going to be in the book of Joshua. In Sefer Yeshua, you're going to find actually what happens with those tribes. How they join the war, how they go back. They want to make sure that their children remain in contact with the children of Israel, and how this is being dealt with. And then it comes to the final Parsha. The final Parsha is called Massei. Chapter 33, verse 1, page 918. Eile Massei bnei Yisrael asher yotzu me'eretz Mitzrayim letzivoisom b'yad Moshe v'Aaron. Says the verse, these are the journeys, the travelings of the children of Israel who went forward from the land of Egypt according to their legions under the hand of Moses and Aaron. And Vayichtov Moshe, Moshe actually wrote as Moitzoeim Lemaseeim al pi Hashem. He wrote their goings with according to their journeys. Basically, he wrote down and records in this week's Parsha exactly how they traveled from Mitzrayim all the way to Jericho, which is the key opener to the land of Israel. And in this very short group of verses, starting in the following verse 3, which begins that they traveled from Ramses the day, tomorrow of Pesach, the day after Pesach, the following day after they had a Seder night in Egypt. Now we are in the 15th day of the month of Nisan. They left Egypt, b'yad Rama, with an outstretched hand, le'einei kol Mitzrayim, before the eyes of the entire Egypt, while, as the Torah continues, Egypt is preoccupied with burying their firstborn. And the Torah goes on and says, where did they camp? And where did they travel following that camping? And you read, they traveled from here and they camped there. They traveled from there and they camped here. And you go all the way till verse 49. And it says that they came where? Vayisu me'orei ha'avorim. And they moved from Orei ha'avorim. Vayachanu be'arvei Smoyov. And they camped by the plains of Moab. Al Yarden Yericho, by the Jordan, at Jericho. This is where they are. Moshe is writing down everything. What happened? Some places, this is a 40-year journey. In some places, they stayed a year. Some places, they said a very short time. Some places they said longer. And Moshe is recording it, as Rashi says, to teach us that regardless of where they were always being provided by God. God was always kind to them. Still, they knew that they are traveling from one place to another. They weren't at the same place at every given moment. Because that's how they felt. Even though, essentially speaking, they were in God's hands throughout the time. Like the famous explanation being told by Hasidic masters that a child who travels, you can have a child traveling from Poland through Europe, all the way through Germany, to Prague, to France, all the way to Israel. You ask the adult, who were you? How did you travel? So they tell you, I left Poland, and from there I went to Czechoslovakia, and from there I went to France, and from France we went Vayisu, Vayachnu, until we made it to Israel. And the babies ask, who were you since you left home? I don't know. I was in mom's hands. I was in mom's hands. The baby doesn't know we stopped here, we traveled there. The hands are the same hands being carried in mom's hands. We can go through the 20 different countries, have your passport signed 200 times. But as far as the baby is concerned, I'm on the same place. I never traveled anywhere. I never moved anywhere. I never exchanged locations. On one hand, the fact that their travelings are being so mentioned and emphasized from this place to that place realizes that they kept places. They weren't in the consciousness of being in God's hands. We were in this, a place called Olush, in a place called Heroes, in a place called Dovko, and all kinds of interesting locations. But in essence, as Rashi says, that the reason Moshe wrote it and recorded it was to show and to teach us God's kindness. That despite the fact that God decreed that they should be wandering in the desert for 40 years. So don't use the word wandering, which is a very scary word. And this is somehow the very common English expression of the time period Jews did in the desert. They were wandering the desert. Says Rashi, they were not wandering. Moshe is recording every place they arrived, and they stopped, and they continued, because they weren't wandering. They were systematically traveling from one location to another location, and in each place God provided them. They traveled. They didn't wander. Let's make it clear. They did not wander. Eile Massei bnei Yisrael asher yotzu me'eretz Mitzrayim. These are the traveling spots. Matter of fact, 14 of the 42 spots they traveled was actually taking place the first year before even the decree was made that they should be stuck in the desert. Just to get from point A to point B is 14 of the places. From Ramses until they came to a place called Rosma, right? Which this you can find later in what's it called? In Fidim, and verse 18, they come into Risma. In Risma is where the spies are being sent. And then afterwards, there was the last 8, was actually after Aaron died, which was the last year of them being in the desert, right? But that actually took place in Oir Or, as we're going to see in a moment on page 38. So you have 14 in the first year, 8 in the last year. So from 42 minus 14 is how much? 20. Minus another 8 is how much? No, minus 42. 14 from 42 is what? Is 34. It's 34. Minus another 8.
26.
Okay, guys. From 42
26.
minus 14 is how much?
Minus 8 is because you're going back. Oh,
So 42 minus 14 is how much? Huh?
28. 28.
28. And from 28 you minus another 8.
20.
So 20. So they only have actually 20 stops between the 38 years. Right? 20 stops. They weren't wondering. And Rashi goes on that actually every trip and every part of the way was not just a trip, it was actually another stage in developing their personalities, in preparing them and making them the people that they were, the strong nation who are ready to get into Eretz Israel. This was probably about 15 years ago. Yeah, maybe less. 12 years ago. The old synagogue, the old Eastside Torah Center, I'm sitting there one morning by myself, and a woman came in. First I thought for a moment that she's related to me, because she looked like somebody who's related to me. She wasn't related to me, but she was from Jerusalem. And she was actually coming from a family which is in the same so-called circle of Hasidism where my mother's family is. Perhaps that's why I confused her for a moment with a relative of mine. She came in. There was a reason why she came to Seattle. She wanted to talk to me about it. She spoke to me about it. And then she left me a book which was written by her father. So I can't give you anything, but this book I can give you. My father wrote the book, so I have an extra one, so I'm going to leave you that book. What's the name of the book? The name of the book is Matot-Massei. Okay? Like the name of this Parsha. Her father, a Jew in Jerusalem, with the name of Don Schwartz, went and he did years and years and years of research with old ancient maps, with modern day satellite, presentations, basically to figure out exactly what was the 42 steps, where were they traveling from where to where. This is just the maps of the bigger book which he printed, which has all the sources and in the give and take, in the discussion, how he came up with different, suggestions. But you see, this is all maps going through page by page. This is in Hebrew. I heard recently that I was asking someone, he said that he thinks the book is in English too. The name of the author you can look up is Don Schwartz. Maybe it's in English called These Are the Travelings, because in Hebrew it's called Matot-Massei. And basically goes through the verses and saying where is what, Mount Seir, and this is actually a satellite picture of Mount Seir, and this is Paran, and he basically figured out, who is what, and how they traveled all the way till they came into the land of Israel. Anyone who's interested, you can take a peek, you look at it, leave it in the library if you don't mind. But it's here for all the years it's lying here. I'm not such, my passion is not maps. For me, Waze is pretty reliable if I have to get anywhere in West Seattle or over, or even Google Maps. But those who read maps and have interest in maps, and I know there are people, it's like a passion for them to see different shortcuts and what and when. So there is a book actually which describes this and discusses it. Question is, famous question, which is being discussed by all the commentaries. What is the first question is, the Torah begins, these are Matot-Massei, these are the travelings of Bnei Yisrael asher yotzu mi'eretz Mitzrayim. it seems that the trip starts from the land of Egypt, and everywhere we travel, we are still leaving Egypt. That's how the Hebrew indication of the verse is. But in truth of the matter, as you read in every verse, we are not leaving Egypt. We are leaving different locations which are long gone from Egypt. And there is the Hasidic explanation, which is also being shared by all Hasidic masters, and the Rabbi kept on emphasizing it, that no, we're not leaving different locations. We're always leaving Egypt. Egypt is the symbol of the place that we are looking to get away from. And you can be 10 trips away from Egypt, and you still are planning to leave Egypt. Egypt is chasing you. And you keep on driving out of Egypt. Mitzrayim, Meitzar, the boundaries. Where are we heading to? Yericho. The Kabbalah says, what's Yericho? Yericho is also not just a location. Yericho is just like Mitzrayim is a symbol. Yericho is also a symbol. Yericho comes from the word reach. What is reach? Reach means smell. What is the era which is counted and considered to be the time when the ultimate person is going to be defined by his smell? Is the era of the Geula, of the redemption. Matter of fact, everybody reads it every year on Pesach when it comes to the Haftorah of the last day of Pesach. And we are all reading together the Haftorah from the book of Isaiah, Od Hayom Benov. And there the Pasuk talks about different descriptions about who Mashiach is going to be and what is the era of redemption going to feel like. When it comes to Mashiach, says the verse in Yeshaya, Vaharicho Beirat Hashem. Vaharicho Reach Beirat Hashem. Mashiach is going to be a person who is going to have the reach, the smell, to see what kind of person are we dealing with, the people around them. The verse continues, Lo lemarei na vishpot. Mashiach is not going to judge by the sight of his eyes. Velo limishma oznav yochiach. Mashiach is not going to decide by the hearing of his ears. Rather, he will be permeated with the spirit of smell. If someone comes and says, this guy owes me, and the other guy says, I don't owe you. This guy wronged me, and the other guy says, I did not wrong you. And they're coming before Mashiach. He's not asking for witnesses. He's not asking for information. Hey, Yankel, come over here. Convicted, acquitted. That's how his Mashiach going to work. He's going to have the power of a no smell to decide verdicts. There's a whole discussion in halacha. How can you decide according to your smell, etc., etc.? But this is a part of the prophecy. This is in the book. You can look it up in your prayer book, page 516, and we read it every year at Pesach. V'arichoi b'hiras Hashem. So the Kabbalah says that when it says that the last and final step in the journey was where? Was, as the verse we read, the last word was where? Yericho. What is Yericho? Yericho is the place of smell. That's why it's called Yericho. What does it mean, the place of smell? We are traveling out of Egypt to get where? To the era of redemption, of the coming of Mashiach. That's the journey of the nation from step one to the final step, which is going to be, revealed, God willing, soon in our days. Amen. Amen. We have a prayer, that prayer is being said, those who pray every day, and they read the part of prayer that we don't read during the formal service, are saying it every day. I would ask, where is David? He's not here.
David?
Is out. Okay, so I'm going to help you. If somebody wants to help me, I'm going to have you give out sidurim to everybody for a change. Prayer books, okay? So here, just wait a minute. Sit. Right there. Okay. You take one. You take one. You take one. You take one. Yeah? You take one. You take one. You take one. Everybody else? Okay. You got? Oh. By next week, we might all need both.
Which page?
Oh. So usually, when you come into shul, so you know, right, David? 7:15 every morning we start, on page 27 is where formal services begin. But there's a bunch of pages, there is from page 1 till page 27. We are expected to say those pages, to read them on our own. Some read it at home, some read it in shul, some read it on the way to shul. But this is pages, this is the introduction to prayer. One of the passages which has as an introduction to prayer, and you're not going to find it in the prayer itself, is on page 22, and it begins in the Hebrew with the words Ana Bechoach. Ana Bechoach, Gedulat Yemicha. Tati Hirtzerura. Ana Bechoach. You see this? This prayer. That same prayer is being repeated every night, but I don't see you going to sleep, so you have to decide to yourself if you do it or not. But those who read every night before going to sleep, the special prayers before retiring at night, the Shema, that begins on page 141. Right? So it begins 1, 2, the Shema, 3. You read a bunch of pages. You don't just fall asleep. You're getting ready to go sleep. You're getting ready to retire, to give your soul back. Hopefully you will receive it the following morning again. So in that same order of Shema, the prayer before retiring to bed, on page 145 of that prayer in the bottom again, what do you find? Ana Bechoach, Gedulat Yemincha. And then, every week, once a week only, you come to synagogue Friday night, or if you pray at home to welcome the new Shabbat, on page 157, just before we all pronounce with song, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala. What did we say before that? On page 157 again, Ana Bechoach, Gedulat Yemincha. When also are we saying it? Every night after evening prayers is during the 49 days of the Omer. When we count the Omer, so look on page 140. So again, you are in the counting of the Omer, and every night we count the Omer, we actually recite the same paragraph. Ana Bechoach. What is the common denominator between the introduction to Shacharit, morning prayer, in the midst of Shema before going to sleep, Friday night, and the counting of the Omer. If you count the amount of words, let's go back to page 22. That's the source that we are going to work with in tonight's class. 22. Ana Bechoach. Ana Bechoach, you have 6 words in every line. So you have one line, Ana, the second line, Kabel, the third line, No, fourth line, Borchem, fifth line, Chasin, sixth line, Yachid, and the seventh line, Shabbatenu. You have 7 lines. Each line has exactly 6 words. 7 times 6 is how much?
42.
42. These 42, you remember a few minutes ago we said something is 42?
Mm-hmm.
The 42 Masaot, the travelings. There was a Talmudic sage with the name of Rabbi Nechunya ben Hakana. Rabbi Nechunya ben Hakana was one of the greatest and holiest sages. And he wrote a book which is not a part of the Talmud, but it's actually even prior to the Zohar, a book on Kabbalah. And the name of the book is called Sefer HaBa'ir. Sefer HaBa'ir. And in this book, he is the one who introduces this prayer. Now, if you look at this prayer on the left side of the prayer in Hebrew, you see a bunch of letters. With those letters are actually the initials of those words. The letter Aleph, Bet, Gimel is the 3 letters of Ana, Bechor, Gdulat. Yud, Taf, Tzadik is the Yemincha, Tatir, Tzerur. Kuv, Reish, Ayin, Kaberinas, Amcha, and so on. What are those letters doing here on the page? What are they meant to represent?
Acronyms
The acronym of
for Hashem.
Of what? It's on the acronym from the Bechor. It's not a Hashem. It's the acronym of the first initial letters of every word of that Ana Bechor. Right?
Come again? It says,
Those letters are the Rashi Tevot
okay.
of that prayer.
Yeah, I got
Ana Bechor Gulat is Aleph Bet Gimel. Yemin Chatat Tzura is Yutuf Tzadik. Says Rabbi Nechunya ben Hakana that this is not just coincidentally letters which initiate the first word, the first letter of every word in this prayer. Rather, if you count up those letters, you have 42 letters. If you would have only know how, but we don't know, this is, in these letters is alluded the name of God, known as the 42 letter name. One of God's name is a 42 letter name. The 42 letter name is not only in Kabbalah. The 42 letter name is actually mentioned in the Talmud. The Gemara says, thank you, you're leaving it. The Talmud says, let me read you something from the Talmud. In Kiddushin, this is what the Gemara says. This is the Gemara, this is the Talmud. Kiddushin, Ein Aleph Amid Aleph, right here, 71:1, 71a. Listen to what the Gemara says. Here the Gemara discusses the name of God, especially the way the Kohanim used to pronounce it. We don't pronounce Hashem's name, we only say Hashem, right? And even in davening, we say a name which represents God as the master, Adon, right? But the name of God can be pronounced in many ways. And the Kohanim, when they used to recite the priestly blessing, the Bekat Kohanim, and when they said Yevarechecha Hashem Yishmerecha, they used to also actually pronounce the long version of whatever amount of letters and way of spelling of that name. The Gemara brings, Rab Tarfon says, once I went up behind my mother's brother onto the platform in the temple on which the Kohanim stood when they blessed the people. I guess his mother was a Kohen. Tarfon was a Kohen. But he saw his uncle in the temple going up to do the priestly blessing. Tarfon was a Hebreman. He climbed up like you see my grandson running on the bima. You know, kids. It's not the first time the kids are running on the bima. It always happens. This lady came and really was very upset at me. One of the last Yom Tovim, how comes kids are running on the bima? She was like going on and on. A visitor. I told her this is a tradition from temple times. What are you talking about? Should I show you the Talmud? Here you see it. Rab Tarfon, it wasn't a Kohen. And he climbed up because he wanted to see his uncle. He saw his uncle. His uncle can only be his mother's brother. Goes up there. He says, and I turned my ears towards the Kohen Gadol. And I heard that he murmured. You know, murmured. Like trying like to swallow. Murmured. The 12th letter name under the melody of the fellow Kohanim. The fellow Kohanim were going like we go here. Ah ya 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 ya. So while they were carrying the melody, he heard the Kohen Gadol is meantime saying the long version of a 12th letter name. I don't even know what letters it was used of God's name. Says Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, the 42-letter name of God is not transmitted to any Kohen, except to one who is very discreet, tzanua. Number 2, humble. Number 3, halfway through his life. 35. Okay? Today it would be at least 65, but in the olden days it was 35. And number 5 does not get angry. Number 6 does not become drunk, intoxicated. Number 7 does not insist on his due, meaning he overcomes his desires. And only those who knew the name are going to be careful the way it's used, and they keep it pure. Somebody who is beloved in heaven above and cherished and heard below. People have to cherish him too, not only God. His awe is cast on creatures, and he is inheritor of both worlds. He is the guy who gets the what? He gets the name. What does the Gemara say? Am I reading it right? I see you checking. 71a in the bottom. He gets, I heard, this is who gets the name of what? Of the 42 letters.
Yes.
Gemara, not Kabbalah. There's a 42 letter, which, since I don't have any of these traits that is being described here, I was never told that name. Okay? And that name is somehow the name, you want to hear it? That name is the name which actually comes out from it's being found, and somehow you have to know how to arrange the letters of this Aleph Beis Gimel, and you're going to end up with this 42 letters name. Honor B'choyach carries that name. What is the power of that name? It's a name of God. It's one of God's name. That's the name which assists you with traveling. So anytime you want to make a major move from one place to another, if you know how to configure the 42-letter name, that's how you're going to travel successfully. That's the Ana Bechoach. That's why it says the Kabbalah. In the morning, before you start prayer, you're now about to travel from the world of sleep and slumber and night to start a new journey, the journey of the day. What do you do before you start davening? You connect yourself to that name. How? Ana Bechoach. Comes at night. You're traveling from a day of accomplishment to the next stage, which is going to be accomplished to sleep. You begin this journey, what do? Ana Bechoach. Comes Friday night. You just finished a 6-day period of traveling and you're entering now the new atmosphere called the Holy Shabbos. You're just about to say, I'm ready to welcome the Shabbos. Let's get excited. Hold on. You're traveling away from the week. You're going into Shabbos. Ana Bechoach. Get into that 42 letters before you move anywhere. The counting of the Omer. We are traveling from Egypt to Sinai, and every day we're traveling from Chesed to Gvura to Tiferes, right? The 49 counting. So every night we get what? A part of the traveling is to read and to concentrate on the Ana Bechoach. According to Hasidic custom, and the reason that you have those letters printed is when we say Ana Bechoach, we have to be able also to keep our eyes on those letters. I think it's actually written in English, I realize now. When reciting Ana Bechoach, you see, look at or visualize the divine names formed by the acronyms of the words as they appear in the left column, but do not say them. Okay? But you keep your eyes on them. This prayer, if you only read it, forget about the 42 letters, the meaning, the insight. It's a prayer with Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. Actually, we have two other prayers in the Talmud recorded, which he composed. He composed that prayer when he entered the synagogue. A very beautiful prayer. The Talmud brings it in Brachot. I shouldn't fight with my friends. I shouldn't contaminate which is pure, and purify which is contaminated. Very interesting prayer. He has a prayer which he recites at the exit from the synagogue. It's also a prayer mentioned in some tractates of Talmud. They actually put it in the one page of it. Oh yeah. In all the articles, Gemaras, they put it. Wonder why. The prayer is actually recorded in the Gemara. The Gemara originally brings it in Roch, right? Who took the first brachas? I have 3 brachas, volume 2. Not 1, volume 1. Okay. In that case, not in here. No. Okay. Doesn't matter. He talks about all kinds of prayer. Actually, in Pirkei Avot, we also have a statement of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. He says, anyone who takes upon himself the yoke of Torah is going to be removed from the yoke of kingdom. He's not going to have to deal with worldly matters. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana in this prayer, and as more you read it, and you understand what you're reading, sometimes you can just stop in one of the words of this prayer and feel the yearning to godliness, the request for guidance, for leadership. And every word, everything, you can find almost everything in that prayer.
When did this guy live?
Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana lived in the Second Temple era. So listen, let's read it in English. Hebrew and translate in English. Honor. What is honor?
Please.
Honor. We implore you. Mevakshim imcha. Ana. Bechoach gdulat yemincha. By the great power of your right hand. Bekoach, gedulat, yamincha of your right hand. What do we want you to do with that power? We ask God, tatir tzerura. Release the captives. You're about to begin a journey, you feel like you captured in the first stage, you can't move to the next one. What are you asking Hashem? Tatir. Release, right? The captive. And then, kabel rinas amcha. Accept the prayer of your people. Whatever we're going to pray to you, please accept it. And here he gives 3 titles to Hashem. Sagvenu. He asks to strengthen us. Ta'arenu, purify us. Nora is where he refers back to God as the awesome one. You're asking for strength and for purity. Line 3rd. No is again, we beseech you. Like, Ono Hashem Oshiana, right? We beseech you who? Gibor, mighty one. Who is beseeching you? What are we asking you? Dorshe yichutcha kevova shamrim. Dorshe means those who seek. Yichutcha, you oneness. This is the ones who are going to say Shema. And they're going to always declare the oneness of God. Kevovas shomrim. Be their shomer. Guard them. Kevovas. Bovas is the apple of the eye. You ever heard the expression? You by me like the apple of my eye. And this is what is the request. Kevovas shomrim. Guard them like the apple of the eye. Borchem. Bless them. Taharim. Cleanse them. Racham mitzitkoscho tomid gomlein. Bestow upon them forever. Racham mitzitkoscho, your merciful righteousness. And then we go again on verse 5. Chasin kadosh, powerful Holy One. We ask him, Beroif tuvcha, please, with your abounding goodness, Nahel adosecho, guide you congregation. We're asking Hashem to guide us. We are traveling. We need guidance. Who's going to take care of us? Who's going to guide? We need Nahel, like Menahel. And then we turn again to God and we say, Yochid Geye, you are the only and exalted one. Please, we say, Le'amcho Pnei, turn to your people, Zoichre Kedushosecho, who are mindful of your holiness. Pnei means what? Turn. God can be with you, but there's a whole other experience if he turns to you. Yes, he can be with you, but giving you, God forbid, his back or his shoulder. Say, hello, Pnei, turn your face to me, come on. Look to me face to face. Ma kore? Shavoseinu kabel. Ushmatza kreseinu. Accept our supplication. Ushmatza kreseinu. And hear our cry. Yedata lumo is you who knows secret thoughts. And then we end up the prayer with the verse Baruch Shem Kvod Malchut Olam Va'ed said quietly. Now, this prayer, you can say it in English, obviously, and it has this great meaning, but when you read it in Hebrew, you should realize that there's a configuration of letters here which spell out names, a name of a 42 letter, which we don't even know how the name is being pronounced. How would you even say it? Talmud says, yes, there were very, very few people who were given the secret. And this is the 42 letter name which is alluded in our Parsha week by reading the 42 Masaot, Eile Masei Bnei Yisrael, where the Jews traveled, and we are a part of this journey. Like we said before, we are a part of this journey. We are Mitzrayim going to Yericho. But like I always say, the best thing in a trip is if you know where you're going. The even better part in a trip is if you know where you're coming from. Because then you can always get back. The Medrash says a story, a famous Midrashic story, that a child was traveling from Jerusalem to the Galilee. And he came to an intersection which had a sign telling you where to take a right or continue straight or a left to the direction it needs to take. Says the Medrash, but lo and behold, the sign was off the beam and was lying on the ground. And now go figure if the sign is the arrow this way or that way. So what do you do? No, let's see, what do you do? No Waze, no Google Maps, no cloud to lead you. What would you do in such a case? You are looking to go, you are leaving Bellevue, okay? You're leaving Bellevue, right? You want to go to, let's say, a Jew always goes east. Let's say you want to go to Issaquah. And you come out to the intersection, and there is a sign which says Seattle here, Issaquah there, Redmond here, Bellevue there, and the sign is on the floor. So what do you do?
Well, you turn the sign to where you came from.
Oh,
Flip a coin.
this is a guy who reads maps.
No, you
Don't flip a coin. But this is exactly what the Medrash says you do. You take the sign, and you know one thing. I just came from Jerusalem, so Jerusalem must be here. So you turn the sign toward Jerusalem, right? The sign which says toward Jerusalem, you put here. And once you put Jerusalem to here, it will tell you that Galilee is there or whatever. If you know where you come from, you know where to head to. If you know that you're coming from Mitzrayim, you're going to Yericho. You have to know which means you're escaping. But the main thing of this Parsha is, and we read this Parsha in this week, which is very close to Tisha B'Av, and especially as we're going to read Rosh Chodesh Shov, in this Parsha talks about the Aaron, the death of Aaron HaKohen. This Friday is Rosh Chodesh. A Jew and a person has to know that life is all a journey. There is the journey of a nation, there is the journey of the individual. It's not by coincidence that we are journeying and sojourning from place to place, from location to location. Everyone here was not born in Bellevue, Washington. We came here. Oh, Dina. Oh, that's right. Very good. We weren't born here. At least our parents were not born here. Our grandparents were not born here. We come from places. And these were places that our ancestors lived for a very, very long time. Some of them lived in Israel. Some of them lived in Poland, Samarkand, England. And we traveled. Why is that? We don't know every place why what, but we all know that this is a part of the Ana Bechoach. It's a journey which it's meant to get us stronger and better. And if you travel and you stay in the same place without growing, it's a waste of traveling. We have to experience the travel. We have to become stronger by this travel. And we should all merit to live with this beautiful experience of Massei, and finally to settle in Eretz Yisrael by the coming of Mashiach Tzidkeinu b'Yerichoi. Let it all be speedily in our days. Amen. Two announcements. Number one, like we just said, this Friday is Rosh Chodesh, the new month of Av. So the Abraham family always honors their mother whose yahrzeit is this coming Tuesday.